Hi, this is a video on writing a good problem statement. So we're going to cover these 5 elements of the problem statement: describing the gap between the desired state and the current state, looking at root causes in the problem statement and how to analyze that, metrics in the problem statement, making sure you include certain things in the problem statement, and making sure you don't say some things in the problem statement. So we're going to go through these in a little bit of detail. So the gap is the main thing that you want to be have in the problem statement, where you want to define the difference between the current state, what's happening right now, and the desired state in which you will design the solution to create. So you have to indicate what the ideal situation is. What would the problem like to solve? What would it be like after the problem is solved? And then what is happening with the problem right now? The next thing you want to understand is what is the root causes of the problems. And I often use an iceberg model where we look at the tip of the iceberg is the problem that we're having. And then below the waterline, there's 3 other levels, theoretically. The first is patterns, so trends or correlates. The idea is that this problem happens when other things happen too. So it actually might be caused by something else, or there's some sort of correlate with something else. Below that is the structures that might be causing the particular patterns. So these could be policies, practices, even physical structures. Like if people happen to be in a crowded area, it might be because of the area is too small physically. And then below that is the ways of thinking. So looking at the problem statement and saying, yeah, we want to issue the problem, but we don't want to disregard some of the root causes. And I'll show you this when we go into an example. Also, the problem statement should indicate the problem, not just the symptom of the problem. This is a really tricky part because the symptom is what we're looking at, but what is the root cause? And how deep should you inquire into this? For instance, if we look at there's a high manual labor cost in a particular inspection situation. Well, you might want to ask about, well, why are we even inspecting? Because that would be a little bit deeper issue. Like if we don't have to inspect, that could completely eliminate the thing. But then maybe it's already been decided that inspection will happen and you can't really question it. But you have to still be thinking a little bit about why the whole situation is happening. So thinking about who's making the decision, what's already been made. But even in an inspection situation, if you go deeply down into the mental models, you might ask questions about why do we need to have high quality, or why do we even need to have a profit? Now, some of those questions are probably a little too deep for the particular problem you're working on, but they still could be questions. So this is a little bit tricky. So thinking about metrics. So one of the main things we want to say is, how will the sponsor or customer know we've completed the task when we're done with the project? So they will say something like this: oh, this is awesome because this solution does. And then imagine in your mind what they will say at the end of that. That will indicate to you how they will judge the project. So in the problem statement, we might want to include some metrics. These might be symptoms, but they also might be the root of the problem. So what are the consequences if we don't fix the problem? How do we measure that? So we also want to indicate the impact of the problem. Will it increase costs, longer times, lower quality, environmental impact, maybe people are impact? And how will the problem be observed? So like, what can you see that's going to be happening? And how often is the problem observed? All these have to do with measuring something. There's some details that you really need to include. Indicate a time frame for when the problem began. Indicate the location of the problem. Indicate the trend. Has it been getting worse? Indicate the importance of the problems to the organization, who's impacted, and where the problem is happening. Some things not to include are, don't include the cause of the problem, because you're going to be investigating that. You just want to describe what the problem is. And then in the problem statements, don't never say anything about the solutions. Like, we're going to design automation process. You want to have it more related to, we want to make it more efficient, lower labor costs. And then in a problem statement, you never indicate who's to blame. Don't say Sue causes this problem every day, so we want to fix Sue. We want to make sure that we don't blame people. So let's go through a problem statement and kind of pick it apart, and then I'm going to show you a rewrite of that problem statement. So this is from a previous senior project. Radiology Associates has a manual data analysis process that is too time-consuming for associates to accurately and correctly process data to complete charge audits and radiology productivity reports at a daily frequency. Additionally, the database systems lack capacity for the company's current demand and needs. For the charge auditing process, a monthly charge audit is not catching all exams that are not being charged, which results in lost revenue for Radiology Associates. In addition, there's no standard procedure for this relatively new process. As for the radiology productivity process, the process has been halted due to reaching the maximum data process capacity on Google Sheets. In addition, the productivity values are not displayed in a meaningful and easy-to-use interface. So it explains what's happening, but I would argue that it could be improved. So I don't see the gap between what we want it to be like and what's actually happening today. So describing the gap, the aspirational change is a bit missing. Maybe we say we want to have a better desired state described. The next, is this a symptom of a different problem? Is there a problem related to why do we do productivity reports, and is there a better way to do the auditing process? So this is a question we might want to ask to understand the system, but it also might not be within our scope of work, and we need to understand that. Could we be collecting the data or analyzing it incorrectly? Maybe we want to look deeper into what is actually being calculated. Why do we need to even charge for healthcare? So if we get deep into the iceberg about why is healthcare a profit industry anyway, that would be a deeper question. We probably don't want to include that in the problem statement because it's a little too much for the things we're doing right now. So maybe we look at the metrics. There's a lot of problems, but no metrics. What does it mean by too time consuming? What does it mean by capacity? How many exams are missed now? The other thing is, what are the consequences of these problems? They did say lower revenue, which was good, but are there other consequences? Are people unhappy? Are patients unhappy? Also looking at what you should include, indicate a time frame. It doesn't say how long this has been happening. And then indicate the importance. Although profit is important, is there other problems with this? And then what not to include. They say there's a problem to be free of causes, but in this case, they're really saying part of the problem is Google Sheets, which might be true, but it's generally not great to put it in a problem statement. So I rewrote the problem statement to here. Okay. So Radiology Associate desires to efficiently and effectively produce daily charge audits and radiology productivity reports. Currently, the process takes 5 hours to manually complete each day. The database lacks capacity, limited by Google Sheets line numbers, and there are errors in the reporting, approximately one every week. Now, those numbers I made up, but it would be good to have numbers in there. These inefficiencies have been getting progressively worse over the last year with a high patient demand. This is causing both higher labor costs and lower revenue. Beyond profit, this issue impacts patient satisfaction and employee well-being. This project will use the best practices in data management, ergonomics, and process improvement to design a solution that will allow Radiology Associates to increase profit and well-being. So I think that's a little bit better, a little bit more clear, but hopefully you'll be able to rewrite or write some of your problem statements keeping these 5 issues in mind.